In this video today, I'm going to talk to you about why your wife doesn't trust you anymore. And this has nothing to do with lying, cheating, or betrayal. If you've been caught doing those, it's obvious trust is gone. But some of the most trust-breaking actions you may be doing are slowly destroying the emotional connection of your marriage without you even knowing about it. So if your marriage is struggling right now, watch the rest of this video because you will start to clearly see the road your marriage has been going down and what you can do to get in the express lane to turning things around. One of the saddest changes that happens to a marriage that is struggling is that eventually all the good moments stop feeling emotionally trustworthy. And when everything feels like it's coming at you fast in terms of the downfall of the relationship, it's hard to pick up on this happening. You may have moments where things, actually feel pretty good again. Maybe you had a good weekend, or a conversation went really well and she laughed a little bit more. I don't want to make it sound dire where even something small like her laughing a bit more is such a huge signal, but be honest, if the majority of your interactions lately have been confrontational or tense, a good conversation with some laughter can give you that glimmer of hope that maybe the relationship is finally turning a corner, right? The problem is, as encouraging as that weekend or good conversation with some laughter, whatever the positive interaction may have been, as good as that felt to you, you have to understand that she has already lived through too many cycles for it to just turn the corner on a dime. Too many moments where things briefly improved before tension returned again. Eventually, your relationship starts to feel pretty emotionally fragile, almost like walking on a thin frozen lake after there's too many cracks that formed underneath. Even during the good moments, there's still a quiet tension underneath everything because she no longer fully trusts the stability of that connection. This is why it's easy to get confused and frustrated when your wife seems warm one day and distant shortly after. It's easy to start blaming her and think she's confused or she keeps changing her mind or that she's impossible to figure out and doesn't know what she wants. But what's really happening is that emotionally, she's fully stopped relaxing into the closeness because she no longer trusts how long it's going to last. And honestly, this happens a lot more in marriages than you would ever think because us men generally focus on the intensity of the individual moment. So she was rude or she was happy, so everything is all good. But women tend to emotionally track patterns, which is a big difference. So if your relationship has repeatedly cycled through these little phase of connection, but then there's tension or going from everything being calm to this burst of emotional instability, it really impacts how her nervous system is. This confirmation bias starts to build up. It's like every little event is a data point that builds overly obvious patterns where she can't invest deeply into the good moments anymore emotionally. Why? Because her risk tolerance has reached a level emotionally that her nervous system cannot trust the good moments anymore. It's too emotionally risky. Her system knows those bad moments are coming and probably really fast. And this is where we sense that pullback and really that emotional hesitation from her. So then we basically double down on trying harder to force that reassurance. Doing that really only reinforces the instability she's already feeling underneath, which is a great segue into the next sign of trust being damaged. Your wife starts emotionally bracing herself around you. And this usually happens very small scales at first. Like it's not a big dramatic brace as if she's riding the scariest roller coaster at Six Flags. A lot of times it really just looks like she's being less soft and there's less openness and ultimately less emotional vulnerability overall. She's just much more careful emotionally. It makes it very easy for you in this situation to think that it means she doesn't care anymore or that she's deliberately going cold as if she's out to get you. I mean, look, are there women out there who will be manipulative and vengeful towards you? Yeah, of course, but that is actually not the norm in these situations. Most time what's really happening is that she no longer feels emotionally settled enough to fully let her guard down. Remember I was talking about the instability. So for her, closeness started to feel very unpredictable emotionally, and that just creates a bunch of tension. I don't know if you've ever had it where you're in your house or your condo and the power just cuts off for a long time. There's an outage without any warning, obviously like most power outages are. At first, it's annoying. And by the way, let's just say it was at a time when you had to have things plugged in. Like we didn't have iPhones that had hours of battery life that you could connect to the 5G internet that you could use during a power outage like we had today. Let's just say it's back in the day. And let's say the power keeps going out and you're really trying to watch something important to you on TV and there's no DVRs. So after enough random outages, you stop relaxing fully. You're very, very frustrated. Even when the lights come back on, part of you is still anticipating like, is it going to go out again? Is there going to be another outage? That's what happens emotionally in a lot of marriages. If arguments escalate unpredictably, or if like pressure suddenly enters the conversation, or your emotional state starts kind of shifting depending on how she's showing up. Eventually, she starts emotionally preparing herself before interactions even happen. She no longer feels fully secure inside the relationship dynamic. This is where I have the absolute firm belief that being the masculine leader of the marriage is truly the only way to get that true, happy relationship, and truly the only way to save your marriage when things are spiraling. And something important is that a lot of people really misunderstand what masculine leadership is. You can see this in mainstream society now with so many people talking about toxic masculinity. So masculine leadership gets kind of lumped into that as some sort of like misogynistic thing. People think that masculine leadership means just being dominant over her and controlling her, which has actually absolutely nothing to do with masculine leadership. One of the deepest forms of masculine leadership is emotional steadiness. Being someone whose presence does not just become unhinged and crush the emotional environment every time some sort of uncertainty or tension shows up. If you are like this, your wife feels like she is a babysitter who has to monitor your reactions and manage your emotions for you. And that kicks trust right out the window over time. This next reason why she doesn't trust you anymore is really something that I have touched on a bit more often in my recent episodes. It's the idea that everything about the relationship slowly starts to feel expensive for her emotionally. Like she's wiring more and more emotional checks and sending emotional wire transfers that her emotional energy account is now essentially drained to zero. It's like a long period of time where maybe your interactions are not as emotionally costly at the beginning. Maybe it's comparative to like the McDonald's value menu before they started jacking up the prices. But the longer it goes in your relationship where you're not being the leader and things are deteriorating, each interaction starts accumulating more and more emotional cost. So because each interaction is getting more and more expensive, it's like going to more expensive emotional restaurants. She's paying for every visit to the point where she is broke. There's no more emotional account funds. The emotional gas tank is on empty. And no matter what you do logically to try and reconnect with her or fill up her emotional tank, it simply does not work. This is one reason why so many struggling couples slowly stop laughing together naturally. Everything becomes way too heavy. It feels way too costly for her, and she has to turn into this protective mode of her nervous system. This is why things can turn very quickly when enough emotional spending has taken place over a period of time. It's when the account gets to empty when all the real trouble for you starts. And finally, you can basically consolidate all of those together to get the big sign that trust has eroded, which is that your wife stopped trusting peaceful moments emotionally. We should all strive for peace and clarity, but peace can't feel like real peace when emotional trust has broken down or is on a very quick path to breaking down. It's not even believable to her anymore because it's just so fragile and conditional. And even if there is some peace in the relationship, it's probably going to disappear at any moment. So even when things are technically like fine, like you're not arguing and things seem decent, she's going to stay partially guarded emotionally. And it's frustrating for you because you're thinking, why can't she just move forward and get past this challenging phase? Like if we truly both want that, why can't we do that? Remember earlier I was talking about how that's kind of how masculine energy thinks. Unfortunately, that really isn't even up to her. Even if she really wants to, even if she agrees to something logical like that, her nervous system is still waiting to see if the old dynamic returns. That sounds and feels unfair, like I get it, but you have to understand the female operating system is built that way. So even if she really wants to install that new software you're suggesting, which is both committing to get past that rough patch and kind of give it another chance, it isn't compatible with her emotional operating system. There will still be this underlying feeling underneath inside her that she's not going to feel safe. That is why you often see couples think maybe like a short-term separation is going to be a good idea so that they can miss each other and get that spark back. And sure, maybe that short time works for a little bit, but if you haven't figured out what is really required of you as a man in terms of leadership and understanding her feminine emotional operating system, the reconciliation usually fails pretty shortly after. So if you can't provide enough of those peaceful emotional experiences over time for her, reconciliation and the ability for her to rebuild that trust becomes very challenging, if not impossible. Now, here's the good news. You can absolutely rebuild her trust. It's built through emotional steadiness. I've been talking about this over and over again. It is one of the most important things you can ever do. Think of it like having to install a software update, and it takes a bit of time to install, but it's going to have everything running so much smoother than you ever even could have thought of if you put that time and consistency into installing it. Not because you're forcing her to accept your new version, but because your emotional presence stops creating the instability that she's feeling inside the relationship. Women do not give a crap about what you are saying or what you're saying you're going to change or what you said has already changed. The only thing that matters is if the emotional experience around you feels different inside consistently, which is, again, my premise about masculine leadership being so important to a healthy relationship. That is naturally how trust and attraction is increased between feminine and masculine energy. It's the beauty of polarity. When you become that man who commits to reconnecting with your purpose, become emotionally disciplined, and really hone in on learning how to be the leader of the relationship, that's what creates the strong emotional center in you. You're not even focused on her, but ironically, that is most often when emotional trust slowly starts returning. It has nothing to do with proving or promising anything to her. It is all in how you show up consistently. So if you're watching this and you're playing out those scenarios in your head and it really feels like your wife has lost trust in you emotionally, don't just immediately assume it means the marriage is over. If you want help learning exactly how to rebuild the grounded masculine leadership and emotional safety inside your marriage, go watch my free masterclass that's linked below in the pinned comment and the description. I walk through the exact framework that completely changed my life and the lives of the men I coach privately inside my coaching program. And if you want to learn how to stay calm when your wife feels like she's pulling away, check out this next video right here.